Whaley and Mintzy, how are you, my lovely? Happy Valentine.
Good morning. How are you? Oh,
well,
much love to you. How long we've been together for now?
3 decades.
You don't even remember, do you?
Yeah, look at you. You've already got in a mood already about it.
It's getting on for 8 years. Would you believe it?
Oh, shut up. It only feels like yesterday.
Well, it's 2020. It's 2026, and we made absolute arseholes of ourselves on stage at Agents Giving 2018. So that, by anybody's standards, is still 8 years. Yeah.
Do you know, by the way, a big shout out to you, obviously, on your Viking interview with Mr. Byfield. It was very good. And you were very lovely. And you mentioned, obviously, I tuned in just to see how you were going to badmouth me. But one of your little bits was that I'll talk to anybody. I treat everybody equal. The truth of the matter, I've been meaning to come back to you. The truth is because I don't know who anybody is.
Zero memory.
And one of the things that always happens is I like you've just said there is I genuinely don't have a Scooby-Doo, how long we've kind of been together or anything else. I just assume you've always been there, just like Mr. Napper.
Mr. Napper. Well, you know what? We'll use Mr. Napper as an interesting segue. So we always ask, where's Whaley been this week? But before I ask you where you've been, I'll tell you where I've been.
I'll tell you where you've been. You've been inside Simon Gates's head for pretty much the entire week.
A lot of people seriously have contacted me to ask me if it's not bullying, and it's not, because it was all done with Mr. Gates's consent. You see, what you've got to appreciate about someone like Simon Gates is he loves the exposure.
Of course he does.
And he'll take it whichever way it comes, really.
I've heard that too.
And the other thing is, if you're going to post ironic snaps of yourself looking all moody, well, then you have to take what comes along with it. That's what happens.
By the way, was every one of those that you got, obviously the great and the good, like Mary Lou and everyone, to do the Gates post? None of them were AI, were they? Because you never know anymore. Were they actually people?
There was only one that was AI, because I got out into the foyer there, and there was a big poster of Phil. What's his name?
Spencer.
Phil Spencer. And all of Phil's poses, he doesn't know what to do with his arms, so he always folds his arms across his chest.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's great. All I need to do is get AI to turn Phil's usual smile upside down, and I did it. So, but the rest of them were all genuine, and I have to say they were all great sports. And I said, look, do you want to be part of this whole viral craze? And a lot of them were and including Mary Lou, very trusting, because they didn't really know what I was going to do with it.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think hilarity prevailed.
We should remember this for future. If they are very trusting, we should abuse that massively, that trust in the future, shouldn't we?
Can Whale do the stance? Do the stance for us, Whale.
I don't.
There you go. Classic. It was great to see everybody. So I did, including so I was at the Property Mart Regional Conference.
What was it like, Mintzy? Because obviously they've been getting rave reviews, haven't they?
In Liverpool, which is nice. They normally do their sort of northernish one in Manchester. So this year, I think they decided to do it in Liverpool. It was at a very nice venue. It was the Titanic Hotel.
Oh, it's lovely. I do like the Titanic. It's it's great.
Yeah, no, it would be great for any of our events, because they normally end up like the Titanic by the end.
What with you going down?
Hey, we're here all week. It was a lovely venue, and it's sort of like an old converted warehouse. I think it used to be the offices for the White Star Line that used to run the Titanic trips and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's got provenance.
It's got provenance. But it was also right next to Everton's ground, and they were playing at home. So it was very busy around there. But it's a great venue, and great bunch of agents turned up. And you know what? Those regionals are actually as good a conference in a day, if you like, on a very small scale as you can get, because unlike a normal conference where you've got, I don't know, it depends whose numbers you listen to, but our numbers, Simon, we get what, minimum of 20,000 people at our conference.
I think that's
Yeah.
the quieter ones. Yeah.
So
that's what the press releases say.
it's a smaller crowd, but the agents that turn up are not obviously there to collect any kind of gongs or anything like that. They're there just to sort of learn. And the supplier hall, the supplier hall is it's well populated with different suppliers, but it doesn't feel kind of sensationalized, and it wasn't sort of
not a hard sell.
Yeah, not hard sell at all. So I think there's more chance for more intimate conversations with the agents, which was interesting. I got to catch up with the likes of Adrian Napper, who always puts a smile on my face. He's just one of these. He's now one of our characters that turn up to conferences, and he's always learning and always doing something. I learned something new about Adrian Napper. Did you know he's a councillor as well?
I did not know.
He's a local politician. So he has taken that whole thing of digital mayor to the next level and actually become almost like the local mayor over there.
I mean, to be fair, I think I've only ever spoken about myself to Adrian, as quite often happens. Of what particular variety? Is he an independent or is he a conservative?
Do you know what? I didn't ask him about his politics. I just assumed, because all the videos I've seen him was of him doing was actually quite helpful. That he didn't work for any of the main parties. And that he was independent, but maybe Adrian can tell us. So that was interesting, because I think that's also an interesting thing. If you are an estate agent and you're a local politician in your community, how much more connected to your community can you get? That's amazing.
Well, you obviously saw me wanting to obviously pigeonhole him straight away and obviously mark him down. Do you think, though, that could, if you were with the
Mr. Napper has released a statement just to say that he's not with Russell Quirk.
But do you think it'd be interesting to understand from him there? Would it polarize people if you were in the wrong party?
Interesting. What reaction you'd get, Adrian? Do you think you'd get sort of knockbacks if you did turn up at people's door as a reform councillor? When you come to value the house, would they kick you out if they disagree with your politics? It's an interesting question. So Mr. Napper, I saw a host of other people as well. I caught up with Rightmove. Christian Bolshan was there.
Yeah, the lovely.
He's a very sensible man, and it's interesting.
He wasn't sensible the week before when he missed his last train home.
Well, no, I think you always have a bad influence on him. I spoke to the lovely Nicola Broomham, who is very much back in business with recruitment. So her and her husband Paul have set up 2.0 recruitment, and they are they're I think Paul is doing consultancy to a state agency, and Nicola, of course, is doing recruitment, and they're working together, which is
cool.
If they think they can make that work and still like each other by the end of the week, then good luck to them, is what I say. But it was great.
If you can't do it in this week of all weeks with Valentine's, when can you do it?
So that was interesting. Who else did I catch up with there? The fellas from PropTech, who do some interesting stuff with property data. Kieran was there. Got a lovely hoodie top from him. And there was a bunch of other people. There was only Jason Lee, obviously, from Property Mart. We were talking about their Advantage package and various different meetings we've had with them. So that was quite interesting. And the only person I didn't see who was notable by their absence was poor old Nathan Emerson. I think
why?
Didn't manage to make it to Liverpool. I don't know why. I'm not surmising that he doesn't like Scousers. I'm just saying he wasn't there.
You're putting it out there. Adrian's just come back. Here we are. He's the Labour Cooperative Party. Interesting, Adrian. And then the bit I love here, I have done with a BNP supporter. He told me to get out of his house at evaluation. Well, that's good. They don't
Oh
deserve.
So I did also. So I've got to tell you, they do this really interesting thing at the Property Mark regionals, and Jason Lee takes great delight in doing this. So what they do is they get all the suppliers to line up in almost like a big conga line, right?
Okay.
And all the delegates are sat down, and Jason's on stage, and he begins to run the Benny Hill theme tune, right?
What?
You know that?
David, it's my ringtone. You should know that.
Okay, well there you go. So he plays that music, and then he'll say, "Right, I'd like to welcome on stage Simon from PropTech to the stage." That's a great name. You should register that, by the way. To the stage, and you'll go up, and you have literally 30 seconds to give your elevator pitch of why you're there and why people should come and see you. And they play the music again to play you out, if you like. So you're under pressure. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most dignified process, but it is funny. And it does genuinely mean that the suppliers can't waffle. So I was there. You
and I have been talking about this. You in particular have been saying we need to, back in the day during lockdown, obviously we could have the luxury of hour-long podcasts. You could go back to an origin story. But obviously with people's attention spans and us all being out again, we've been talking about that need for an elevator pitch, haven't we?
Yeah. So I've got to say the Property Mark regionals nailed that. I'm not sure all the suppliers love it, but they get their time on stage and everybody gets it. So I was there to do a sort of a mini pitch for the Property Mark Trust.
I believe you took a minute and 5 seconds, unlike you to be overly verbose.
It's not like me to last that long, to be fair. But I did. So as part of all of that, I was in the room when they do their speeches to the two presidents, Mary Lou, who is the president for NAA, and Megan, who is president for ARLA. Do like a little pitch, and they're excellent. You can imagine they have to go around the country doing this pitch everywhere. Megan likes to change hers up the whole time, so hers was all about marathons, and she broke down. It was quite interesting. It was all about the renters' rights, but but she did it in sort of 0 to 26.6, which I think is So she had a point on everyone, and she just asked the crowd to pick numbers at random, and she would give them. And I thought it was quite interesting. So yeah.
Well, me and you love marathons, don't we? We're a big
fans. It's all about pace and stamina, isn't it?
Look, I mean, we've never done it, but how hard can it be?
But it is. It's a great day out, and I actually think that it's. They do that very, very well, and it feels like their members do actually get quite a bit of value from it. So it's one for the rest of us to copy.
So what else you seen this week then? Anything else catch? What's the stories that have caught your eye this week?
So I've had a couple of things this week that have sort of that have caught my eye, and we will talk about those now. Let's see if I can get these on screen. Do you remember the Marathon chocolate bar?
Of course, yeah.
Now called a Snickers.
Yeah, I'm not a man who enjoys his nuts in chocolate though. Those are I'm perfectly fine. That sounds terrible. Those two should be kept as far away as possible, as far as I'm concerned.
So I'm going to show this only because I want to give Mal another shout out. One of the people that I sat with as well over the last sort of week or so was Mal McCallion at his tour that he's doing around the country. And we spoke about what they're working on there at PropAlt and the new system.
Talk about a marathon. That tour that Mal's doing. That's a labour of love, isn't it? He's really getting around every part of this nation.
It is. But they are working on some good stuff. So I think, honestly, one of the things that sort of stood out from my chat with him was the fact that typing. We're all used to typing stuff into our phones and into sort of the computers and so on. And there's a sense that when we're doing proper work, we have to go and do it at a desktop and get a keyboard out and start smashing the keys like you do. But in actual fact, the future is predominantly just going to be voice search, and that is why it needs to be simplified.
Look, you see, obviously, there's all those stats about kids, just being using that very heavily. But I found that really different. It's taken me a real effort to, to force myself to do it. But of course, I've always thought, because I'm quite a quick typer, I always thought it was more productive to do it on the keyboard. But you realise when you're actually talking into it that's just not true, isn't it?
So I think most people can type. I think I saw a Toby Martin stat, and I know that Toby and Simon Ledbetter's lot make up a lot of the stats, but I think he says you can type on average, I think 40 words a minute, and you tend to speak something like I don't know, you could probably do about 400 or something, so you can talk a lot faster and you can get a lot more in there.
You get me last thing at night, I can take that up to 2,000 words a minute.
Just depends what kind of nightcap you've had, and so that's really, I think that's really interesting. And what's interesting is, if you do think about it, in our cars we're now used to sort of asking Siri or just the system itself to search for stuff. At home, if you've got an Alexa or a Google thing, or even again Siri, a lot of people and the kids are asking, they don't bother to search for anything on a keyboard anymore. They're now switching over to audio, so that is one to watch for the future. Definitely. So that was an interesting stat.
But this one you're talking about with Mal, isn't it? It's quite interesting because, of course, all we're ever hearing is about which jobs are going to be made redundant through AI and everything else. And I heard he's making this point about there's this tool that's, threatening Hollywood, and we'll jump into that in a second. But I heard a really interesting point the other day that we're probably coming at it from the wrong angle in terms of just looking at the jobs that are going to be made redundant. I can't remember who it was, made the point you should be identifying the tasks that are going to be made redundant and which percentage of your job, obviously, that is. So there's very few jobs that are 100%, let's say, white collar or anything else. But there was another one going around. I didn't realise it. Did you see that autonomous cars have been given the nod for next year?
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. And I've seen videos of them testing that as well. And I
didn't realise how massive it was, though. So it's like 1 to 2 million people, are involved in driving vehicles of some forms, whether that's taxi drivers, everything else there. So, I mean, it won't impact them all straight away, but it's going to have to take a big hit, isn't it?
I think so. I think it does affect people like taxi drivers the most. And look, the roads are full of, I'm going to sound like Russell Quirk now, the roads are full of cars these days driven by immigrants, and I don't like it. But
did you miss the accents and impressions class when we did the comedy?
I think I was doing my Jim Ratcliffe impression there. The roads have been colonised by immigrants.
Colonised, yeah.
On that note, how atrocious is that? Honestly,
it's just like, look, for as they said, 23 players or whatever else are immigrants, and they've colonised United, and like sit back in your Monaco castle, mate, and just leave it to yourself.
So this is what Mal sent over. Video of the week: Brad versus Tom. There is a longer version of this. I'm going to play it. So,
wow. That's getting. I mean, that's like you and me at a strategy day, to be fair. But that is really starting to just get mind-numbingly close, isn't it, to the real thing?
It is, isn't it? So I think that's, Hollywood. You're talking about jobs that are gonna, come under fire. Hollywood and artistry in general, they're very, very concerned about what AI is capable of doing now, and rightly so. rightly so, because now any sort of nerd with a mobile phone is able to sort of create the type of videos that 10 years ago they wish they could do that kind of CGI in Hollywood, but now actually you can do it quite cheaply, can't you?
The only barrier now really is around IP and copyright, isn't it? And it was, I don't know if you read the rest of that story, but it was interesting. The guy that put that together obviously has already been hit with the whole cease and desists and all of that kind of stuff. So it's less, and this is always the point, isn't it? Like with AI, like with autonomous cars, it's becoming less about actually the capability of doing it and more the legality around whether it's permissible or not.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can see why there's so much concern about, it being abused for. I mean, they had that whole Grok controversy, didn't they, where you could literally sort of use it for pornography and stuff like that. I mean, who would think about doing that, Simon?
Yeah, thanks for those.
But and it's interesting. So actually, though, has this made Paul Champolina's job easier this year? Does he need to organize a charity boxing match from the property industry, or can we actually just do really great CGI AI driven videos of Ben Madden getting a black eye?
You've heard me saying this, haven't you? Me and Quirky were going to go hell for leather in the ring until Paul called us up and said, "You're not doing this to take the piss, are you?" And it was like, "Yeah, that's absolutely what we're about." So, but yeah, maybe that's the way out of it. There, we could raise a bit of money.
Maybe that's it. You can pick. So maybe actually, listeners, you can let us know who in the property industry you'd like to see fight who. To fight to the death. We'll arrange that.
Excellent. We'll do that. Yeah.
That's Kerfuffle Blood Sports now online. kerfufflebloodsports.com. So
yeah,
let's have a look a little bit further afield for some other news. And I've got it here. How do I do this? There we go.
So which one's this one?
This one is gonna be this. This was just bizarre, right? So this is obviously another one of those kind of press releases that is also an advert, that is also an article. But view your next home in person, not on your phone, agently. Physical viewings are not optional; they're an essential part of finding the right property, according to search firm Stacks. So obviously, this is something that Stacks have thrown out. And if they're not on Kerfuffle, we're obviously very keen to talk to them. But what's interesting is that they're also saying that many of the best homes never reach the portals at all, which is interesting, because there is this sort of illusion that a lot of homes sell before they're listed publicly to buyers, and they build personal relationships with those agents, etc. I don't think, this is my own theory, I don't think it happens as often in this marketplace as you might think. I think that will happen in a very, very, very good market. So, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when we were coming out of COVID, maybe 4 years ago, where everything was just selling and people genuinely were clamoring for stock. Yeah. Then I think in those situations, yes, people want to do sort of, I'd say under the table deals, but off market deals, if you like. These days, more often than not, after an agent has effectively exhausted, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 buyers that they might have, it's then ready to go out on the market. And there's always this horrible kind of, I think it's also this horrible, you set yourself up to fail sometimes by trying to do an off-market deal. Because if I came to you and I said, Whaley, you think you're selling your house? Great, I've got some buyers, and you don't even need to put it on the market. I'm just going to bring them around and they're going to view it. And I get them all through your door and they all come back with the same feedback about the price or whatever it is. If you're super sensible and I'm a super sensible agent, we'll sit down together and I'll say, Whaley, look, market's spoken. We've now spoken to all these buyers. They all think it's only worth 700 grand and your hopes of getting 950, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to do that.
There's a lot of ifs in there, isn't there?
Yeah, but you're going to feel that your property hasn't really had market exposure, that it hasn't been tested. So you're not going to take my word for it. You're going to insist on going to the market, but you're also going to already be a little bit disappointed in me as an agent because I've kind of had my chance. I've shot my wad and it's not worked. So
I think
you may go with a different agent. So I always feel those off-market proposals are very difficult to put together.
But look at as ever, you always question the source, don't you? So my understanding, Stacks they're buying agents, aren't they? So by definition, this is going to be it would be really interesting to understand where they, their comment that most most properties are off market.
Yeah, I mean, so Claire Cood, their regional director, says many of the best homes never reach the portals at all, selling before being listed publicly to buyers who have built personal relationships with local estate agents, or those who have used buying agents. However, right, I honestly think that most good agents are going to show you the houses that they've got. And if you ask if they've got anything else, they'll try and match you to whatever it is. We're keen to sell. We're not being exclusive for the sake of it.
Isn't it a lot like, though, sort of on the market, what do they call it, the early bird or whatever else? Lots of people have been trying to, educate to go 24 hours, 48 hours. Some people do confidential. I think Wilkinson Grant do a confidential. Yeah. So my question back to you there is that an interesting one in this, again, ubiquitous AI age where everything's all information available at the touch of your fingertips or whatever else there. Is there going to be a drive to try and take more of this stuff off the books, as it were, to retain that human kind of, the expertise about you being the expert?
Yeah, in a way, you might try and stagger the release if you like, and so I think strategy is a good one. If going back years ago, Perry Power used to have a whole thing about what day you should bring a property to the market, what order it should go onto the internet. Does it go on your website first? Does it go to Rightmove? Do you put it on socials? Are you actually not going to tell people where it is initially? You're just going to do like a super secret early bird and see where it goes. But going back to this article here as well, and so I think to answer your question, yes, absolutely. I think in this AI age, we are going to have to think about how we throw things out there. Ultimately, though, agents are always going to want to have it online eventually because you need that footprint of your success. I want to be able to say that I listed and sold Whaley's house. If I keep it a secret, nobody knows I've done that. So it might be good for you, it might be good for your buyer, but it does nothing for the agent at that point. So I would argue that the agents are always going to want to sort of bring that out into the open eventually. So it's just a matter of what order they do it in. But going back to Stack's initial sort of claim that a lot of people are buying stuff without seeing it in person, if you get a chance, you can listen to me on another podcast. I was on the World Class Real Estate thing, and we're talking about this whole thing of emotional intelligence versus AI, if you like, which was also the theme of the RAND conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But when we were talking about it, there is also I sort of related to the guys that I'd spoken to a buyer recently who asked me for some advice, and they were just a little bit upset. And I asked them why they were upset. They were buying their first house. The first house is about 280,000. It's every penny that they've got in the world. Very excited about buying the house, but they were a bit miffed that they only got 15 minutes to view it. So they went back to the agent and said, "Can I have a second viewing because I only got 15 minutes?" And they gave them another 15 minutes. So you're spending 280 grand and you're going to spend all of 30 minutes in that house. And that, by the way, is not unique to that particular agent. That's quite an industry average. Most of us schedule viewings for a 15 to 20 minute slot. And very often the viewer will be looking at their watch going, I've got to get to the next one. So just want to hurry you up here. But if you think about the money that you're spending, you don't buy a car and only spend 15 minutes test driving it. You do a lot more due diligence. So I think that so to my mind, Stacks' claim that people are buying things off video, I don't think that's particularly true necessarily. But what I do think is true is that we as agents have probably got to do a better job of giving buyers quality time inside a property. Yeah.
And
Peter, I love this market. We're not chasing the market down. We're repositioning to get in front of it.
Yeah, nice positioning
Well,
statement.
Peter, who's raised a couple of goalkeepers, knows about getting in front of stuff.
Look at you.
Well saved, eh?
Yeah, impressive stuff.
So that was an interesting story. This one really sort of, I think, made both of us smile.
Oh, is this the car one?
Yeah. This is a parking row. Sparks cheeky estate agency campaign will get you closer to your asking price than our staff can get to the curb. So I'll just read out the header. A Canterbury estate agent has turned the online pylon into a viral marketing success story after one of its cars was photographed parked on double yellow lines and shared on Facebook. Charles Bainbridge estate agent's Pink Mini was snapped in Castle Street, prompting more than 200 comments as motorists accused the firm of inconsiderate parking. Critics said that the car was blocking access, whilst others pointed out that the agency has a Canterbury City Council permit, which allows this sort of vehicles to park on double yellow lines. Quick thinking agency director Andy Wicking immediately reposted the photo as a tongue-in-cheek ad with the strap line, "We'll get closer to your asking price than our staff to get to the curb." And it's racked up more than 500 likes and a flood of responses. And I just think that kind of stuff is brilliant.
Look at two things you got to love. Obviously, it's got everything. This story, hasn't it? Car parking. It's got a pink car, which obviously we love. But the follow-up story, first of all, as well, I like to think that he had that photo taken just for this story because it's like it's a perfect little.
It's the cat that got the cream. Yeah.
And there's his second statement there: parking skills, negotiation skills. Guess which one we take seriously? It's like I mean, this has Ryanair, doesn't it, or Paddy Power kind of all over it.
It does. And you know what? They're nice people, clearly, because Wicking told Kent Online, "We started as a wave of criticism, was turned around with a bit of humour, perspective and calm, and the response to that shift was overwhelming." He also promised the agency would donate £500 to mental health charity, the Canterbury Umbrella Centre. How nice is that?
That's a 10 out of 10 right there, isn't it? Yeah, I love that. That's really, really good.
So quite like that one. Right, something else that caught our eye this week. Let's have a quick look. Well, this kind of ties into something that I was talking about with Gemma. I had a session with Gemma, and that was very interesting.
It's incredible, isn't it? You know, because they've been doing very successfully our kind of like, you know, the bread and butter IT support side of things. And jumping on a session with him, you realise, obviously, you know, that co-pilot I was talking to, is it Lee from LSL the other day, and I was saying is I'd got myself into a bit of a zone where I was just using that Microsoft Copilot, and its basic level, it's really it's a bit meh. But actually, if you upgrade it to the other ones as we did with Air, James took me through it, and the stuff you can do, you know, integrating with your whole Microsoft suite, so being able to look at your spreadsheets and everything else is incredible, really.
It's crazy. So let's just talk about this. Fraudsters have hijacked the identity of a letting agency and a landlord in sophisticated rental scam that has netted thousands of pounds from tenants using short-term holiday rental to stage viewings. Two women told the BBC that they handed over around £8,000 after signing what they believe was a genuine rental agreement for a flat in Chapel Market, North London. One went to an in-person viewing of the property, while the other joined on a video call. To secure it, they then paid a 6-week deposit and 3 months rent up front. When they arrived at the flat on moving day, however, they discovered that from the cleaner that it was actually a short-term holiday let. And the pair said that the individuals that they dealt with, both in person and over the phone, seemed very professional. And so that's a fairly basic scam. And I guess the reason it caught my eye is it combined with what James and I spoke about on that webinar, and you can catch it because we released it on Friday.
It's really good.
If you think about it, a lot of the stuff that we use now, you've got. And this is why coming to talk to us at Kerfuffle is going to be more important than ever. In how many of you are targeted by online ads by various different software companies offering you AI this and AI that, and it all looks great, but how do you know whether those are actually going to pass the security test?
Yeah.
How do you know whether you can actually trust your client's data in their hands? Let's not forget, and we keep going back to this again and again with the stories that we cover. Let's not forget, estate agencies do handle an awful lot of client money, loads.
Yeah.
And that is too important to put, therefore, to give yourself this. I think the way that James almost describes it as a Trojan horse, you think you're installing something good, that opens the back door to somebody else to nip in and pinch information. So look, very simple scams targeted at innocent people are out there, but the property industry as a whole is a massive target for these sort of guys. And you've got to.
And look, obviously, we've got Josh on here from Repit, they were talking about, and I heard them at the LSL conference, and they were talking about, it's all very well looking at all of these different sort of features and everything else, but looking at the security and the structure side of things is the first point, because you're hearing more and more of these cyber blackmail kind of things going on. Obviously, very prevalently, that 120 office agency were obviously exposed to that. And I said to everyone, I think it happened famously in the conveyancing world, and a few of the other conveyancers almost took a few sort of cheap shots at it. I was like, keep your head down, unless you're, if the biggest companies out there with, spending all this money are obviously getting hit with it, they're but for the grace of God, isn't it? And so I think Josh is obviously, and the Repeat guys have been absolutely correct in terms of that. But what's interesting about that story, and we were going to contrast it, I think, with that other story about wet signatures, weren't we?
Yes, we were, yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? So wet signatures finally being available to be able to do the whole element of the sale. And
so nationwide, Trailblazers digital signature. My God, how long have we been waiting for this? But UK's biggest building society claims a milestone has been achieved in speeding up the home buying process by allowing qualified electronic signature. In 2026, ladies and gentlemen, we finally got around to getting an electronic signature for a mortgage. That's just amazing. So Nationwide has become the first lender to allow it.
It is, but just go and of course, you and I, I think we saw this story first, we said, look, that's crazy, we're celebrating that, and it should be celebrated. But actually, to go back to it, it's not hard to see why people have been dragging their feet with that previous story, isn't it? The more you make it digital, obviously, you're hoping that you can make it even more secure by going digital. But when it's open to abuse like that, is it any surprise?
It's true. I think there is a distrust of that, and I suppose if you were borrowing a lot of money, would you insist on sort of going into your solicitor's office, signing a piece of paper rather than returning the wrong agreement? We've all had, there's been other scams, haven't there? So agents will know about the scams where people intercept emails for completion funds and basically send an email from the solicitor to the client that says, hey, Simon, that house that you were completing on Friday, everything's good to go. Just want to let you know, we've had a bit of a last minute change in our client account details. Can you now use these new details instead? Yeah. And you send over your deposit and your life savings to that. So now, obviously, solicitors are not accepting that directly. They're asking you to call the office to verify details and all that sort of stuff. So it is murky. It is murky, but I would argue that we should be able to get to a safe place in the industry where we can get rid of the wetness around signatures.
We were promised that blockchain was going to be the solution to this, weren't we? How many times have we heard about it's the most secure sign? And actually, a bit like maybe the first iteration of QR codes, it's taken its time, as far as I can see, to really deliver on that. And I see what you're doing here, by the way, Mr. Lawrence. Lots of scammers out there. If you get this product, you only need one instruction from it, and it will pay for the whole month. I see you, Peter. I know exactly what you're trying to do there.
But I think we're having a strategy day on Tuesday, and we've put on the agenda, because I threw it in after my chat with Gemma. Genuinely, one of our focuses at Kerfuffle going forward is going to be more on do suppliers pass a minimum test in terms of the security of their products?
Yeah.
You know, what are they using? So how can we recommend products to estate agents if we don't know that they've not been properly checked out? So I think that is now an increasing concern, isn't it?
There's many forms of security, isn't there? There's the security of will the product deliver. There's the security about will the company be there and everything else.
Correct.
Well, you know, ARPM was a classic example on the face of it. A fantastic service, outsourced, obviously there, but when it hit the rails and it left people with, you know, their obviously their.
Well, you see, ARPM were set up and they were quite far away down the line. What you might find actually with some PropTech products, particularly with AI stuff, is that these are companies that are trying to prove concepts still, and that they're still effectively in beta mode, but they need a critical mass of people from any one particular industry in order to say this works for estate agents. So they need a certain number of estate agents to sign up to it. And I think at that stage, if you were to sit down these companies and say, why are you doing it? None of them will tell you, well, we care about estate agents and delivering them quality leads, and we just want to make their lives easier. What they'll tell you is, if they're honest, is that their exit is to build this up and flog it out as quickly as possible. And I think you're bang on there. I think that's where the danger is, that people actually.
I caught up with John Paul, obviously, of Prospector Pro fame, and, you know, obviously that's a very exciting project. And I think one of the things that I do almost by default, obviously, you've got all that wonderful AI stuff helping you do more calls, gamify it, obviously give you openings. But one of the key elements of it as well is, just like we do when we're recording with Fathom, all these different tools. The whole element of Prospector Pro is that you have full access, obviously, to the conversations that your team are having with the public, so you can spot red flags as well. And I think that's that's certainly those guys. And then who was it? CRE as well. These guys are just coming on board with us. I saw them at the Guild conference. Absolutely, again, you know what you can do with the phone systems now. That needs to be like 101, because how can you know what your teams are doing unless you've got the security of knowing that that's being audited?
I honestly think it's the future of training. It all starts with listening and reading those transcripts. They do amazing things at the moment. Like Luke Sinclair's company has also been doing that agent. What do they call themselves? Agent Connect, I think they call, where basically your calls are transcribed straight into your CRM, but it will also give you a sentiment analysis. So it'll say, look, you know, David started the conversation strong. Towards the end, he started to flounder. Every time money was mentioned, he got nervous, whatever it may be. And you therefore know as a manager where your training needs to be focused. Some interesting comments here. Peter Lawrence, everyone will have a Credus wallet on their phone or something like it over the next 5 years. Exactly what they said at the Kerfuffle conference last year. What a great conference. And if you haven't bought your tickets for this year, then it's a must with what is lined up. I don't know how much you had to pay, Pete, for that, but that's amazing.
Technically, we do need to release the tickets before doing, but that is actually, actually just on that, he's given us the leeway. And thank you for putting that up, Peter, like I asked you to. No, I didn't really. But we went down, me and Sarah obviously went down to see the ICC, the International Convention Centre there. I am telling you now, that as a venue has everything. It's got that wonderful, I think, one of the things you and I have loved about the women in estate agencies, you've got that in the latest venue, you've got that wonderful kind of auditorium feel to it. Yeah. You've got that angle round there as well. So, as I said, it could go up to, I think it goes up to about 1,600. I mean, Christ knows if we'll ever get anywhere near there. But you can imagine with people like, as we've got Alistair Campbell and people like Josh Fegan, striding around that, it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Very excited. So Joshua Finlay, our friend from Reapit, has said ISO 27001 as a minimum security requirement will soon become the norm. And he must be right, because Louisa Fletcher is seconding that. ISO 20071 is the benchmark for security standards. So if PropTech has the ISO count mark, you're in good hands. So do
us a favour. Now that we've obviously just learned about this the last 2 minutes.
We're going to Google that.
Google that, and can you get it up on the website saying we're enabled with it as well?
So actually, James and I discussed how we are going to alter some of our processes behind the scenes at Kerfuffle, just to help us to vet those suppliers a little bit more. But that kind mark is very much something that we're going to be looking for. But particularly when it comes to AI products, because those are the ones that tend to be quite, sort of, they come and go, don't they?
What we haven't seen yet, which is the really terrifying bit, is obviously they're just starting, but throwing AI behind, cyber hacking and everything else there, that when you talk to the likes of James, these people who know about it, you throw quantum computing around with AI as well, and it's absolutely terrifying. She's absolutely lovely, Louise, and I had an amazing session with her on there, and by the end of it, I felt like blowing my head. Some of the stuff she was highlighting to me about new rules and everything else is absolutely incredible. We're talking about a whole project going forwards that she's brought to our attention, and of course we will, as we always do, hold on to the coattails of success as much as we can do. So yeah, I'd urge anybody to get in contact with Louisa if they're interested.
So we've only got a few minutes left because I've got to go do some karate picking up.
Yeah, I know you love your karate.
And if I'm late, Kato will get me.
I love that idea that that bullshido, whatever they call it. I love the idea that you're just there taking out kids like sort of Steven Seagal.
Come on, bring it on. The one thing we were going to talk about was selective licensing. Yeah. Which I think is a topic for next time, because I think it's a bigger topic. There's been a lot of criticism about selective licensing and the amount of money that it nets in for local councils, the pressure that it puts already on a population of landlords that feel very, very much persecuted. And does it deliver any kind of value to the actual tenants, or does it just fill the coffers of local government? So I think we should cover that next time. Can you tell us where you're going this week, what you're doing, what you're looking forward to?
I'll give you actually just a couple of things from last week rather than this week, because it's honestly, we've had such a brilliant week that this is. I mean, first of all, we saw that obviously that Valpal and Iron Property coming together. I think what Valpal are doing, their Valpal Pro products, really, really interesting in terms of tying together, and just that, again, wanky phrase, but that whole ecosystem that Iron Property are just building on there, that having all your eggs in one basket is really, really exciting.
Did you see Iron Property are promoting a National Estate Agency Day?
I love this idea.
26th of February. I was gutted when I saw it, because I was gutted I didn't come up with it myself.
Yeah. I do like. Do you feel validated now?
I honestly, I feel like we've got a national holiday just for estate agents. I'm not sure any of the public are gonna celebrate.
I do want to see how it's received by them. Oh, I'll tell you what. Well, let's get in quick. Let's get our National PropTech Day in, because if you can't beat them, join them.
It happens to be the same day as the Kerfuffle conference, but it's a great day to have it.
That is a great. So if we do that and we make out it as a national holiday, we've done it, haven't we?
Another bank holiday.
I tell you what, though, I had an amazing catch up with Brian over at Akaboom, and we always talk about one of the big challenges that obviously suppliers face is that agents obviously think that they know what once they get to know a company, they think that's how it's always going to be, and we always talk about it's quite difficult to break people out of that kind of lethargy. And I thought, we use Akaboom ourselves, don't we, for our proposals and everything else. But I caught up with him the other day. Here's a couple of stats that just makes you realise why you need to stay in contact with those key businesses you've got an eye on. And, of course, talking to us whose job it is to stay on. Let me give you a couple of stats here he gave me, which blew my mind. The sooner you send a proposal, the more likely you are to win. All fairly obvious there. But sending a proposal within 6 hours gives you a 73% higher chance of winning compared with sending after 24 hours. I mean, you hear these stats, don't you? But when you hear those stats backed up by the
it makes perfect sense. If you think about the psychology behind shopping carts, online shopping carts, where people put stuff in the shopping cart and then they go on and they move on to do something else. And there's a whole business in trying to wake them up and say, hey, Simon, you put something in your shopping cart. Do you want to buy it now? Because you're going to miss it. And it's the same thing, really, when you go and see people. People expect things instantly. They make decisions more quickly that way. But yes, it's a big move who you instruct on your house, but I think speed helps you to stay front of mind.
But here's, the wonderful as well, having more transparency and data to act on. But the second bit was that wonderful thing you get in Akaboom that tells you when, a vendor's or potential vendors looking, at the proposal. And he hit me with this one. A homeowner viewing their proposal a second time increases the chances of being instructed by 30% over a single view. And if they view a third time, it goes up to 92% likelihood of being instructed over just a single view. So that think of the confidence there, whereas we always critique people, valuers that are so quick to drop their fees even before being properly challenged there. Having that in the kit bag, knowing that actually these guys are really, really serious as well, I just think is really good. So again,
I think there's loads on that, and I think it's also useful to think about what you put in the proposal. So yes, you can get it in front of somebody quickly, but what is it that they are going back to see that second and third time around?
Yeah.
What is it that makes people want to look at it again? So yeah, think
Can
about
I flag
it.
2 companies there to keep an eye on? We're obviously always getting, every week we come across new companies. So the wonderful, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but a magical lunatic, Taylor from Tappy. So, obviously we saw him, didn't we, the night before EA Masters, and he almost wrote me off. But these guys have come over. I think they've got over 60-70% market share over there, kind of fixed flow style, obviously, in terms of what they're about. And they're coming to the UK. They're going at it really seriously. Some of the stuff they've been highlighting that they're bringing to the market is really, really interesting. So I'd get them very much on there on the watch list. And then the other thing is, I don't think I've even spoken to you about this. Have you heard of Deployer IQ?
No.
No, so there's two. Again, you know what? One of the most sickening parts of our job is talking to really young, really talented, brilliant people, and we have to sit there and sort of like, these lads are like, they're kind of like the Oxbridge candidates, Tom and Sam over there, throwing in AI over the top of obviously web activity. So what people are hitting on your website, a whole layer there, which of course people are looking at. So as I said, early days, I've only just started trying to get my head around it, but I think both of those companies are going to be very firm targets for 2026 in terms of a watch list.
Adrian Napa should also be put on a watch list, just a different kind of watch list. There we go. That's how we're ending the show this week, the same way we started. Have a wonderful week.
Yeah, you smash those kids up at karate, yeah? Take them out, matey.
I'm on my way. All right, take care.